Well, hello there, pumpkin friends. It's Chad New from Colorado. On behalf of the RMGVG, we are going to be talking with the one, the only Travis Gienger today, the world record holder, all around awesome guy with those sweet orange shoes. We appreciate you watching. Take a second to subscribe to the channel. We'll have more interviews now that it's winter time and we have some more free time to ruminate on our seasons, talk to some of the best growers and get those tips so you too can grow a 2,700 pound pumpkin or close to it. Yeah. Also, don't forget to join your local club. The best way to gain knowledge and get bigger pumpkins is through those connections and that local knowledge. Join your local club, super important. So without further ado, let me tell you a little bit about Travis. Travis grows out of Anoka, Minnesota. In addition to being a world record pumpkin grower, Travis's most important job is being a husband and a father to his 3-year-old adorable daughter. When he's not growing pumpkins or being a father, he runs his own business called Waterstone Fire Tables and Custom Rock Creations. Really cool stuff. Travis has his bachelor's degree in agriculture education from the University of Minnesota, and for the past 12 years has been teaching horticulture at the Anoka Technical College. Travis has a modest roll of accomplishments that let me tell you about him. He is the 7-time Guinness World Record, or he is a 7-time Guinness World Record holder, 4 of which he still has to this day. He's been growing pumpkins for over 32 years, and he would like to note, we'll get to this in the questions, that until recently, he's done very little winning in those 32 years and a whole lot of losing. In 2020, he won Half Moon Bay with America's largest pumpkin at $23.50. In 2020, I might have gotten the dates wrong here, 2021 Half Moon Bay winner for the second time in North America's largest pumpkin at $25.60. In 2023, he had a three-peat with a world record of $27.49, and this year in 2024, making it, 4 in a row, $24.71. So without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Travis. Thanks for joining us today, Travis.
Thanks, Chad. Yeah. No, I definitely missed a year in there. 21 was not. It was a bust. So, yep.
So just a mere 3 times in a row at the Super Bowl of pumpkin weigh-offs.
Yes.
So glad to see. So everybody, if you're new here, if you're just coming in today, how this works is I have some questions that I've typed up for Travis that will kind of ask some general questions. Feel free to post questions in the chat. I will do my best to get to them. The moderator in there, the brainchild of this, or the mastermind behind this, rather, is Jason. He's moderating in there, and he'll text me if I miss something. Halfway through or so, Travis has generously agreed to give away some seeds to a lucky winner today. Travis, what are you going to give away?
I've got my seeds from this year that I can give away. I've got the Triple M, which I think will be a gorgeous orange pumpkin. And I've also got Rudy, which has some pretty powerhouse 2365 genetics behind it. And I'm very curious to see what that one does.
Excellent. Tonight is brought to you by the Tijuana champion Mexican lager, Aurora, Colorado. All right, well, let's just jump right into the questions. Being a small business owner myself, the burning questions I have are kind of around your business. How do you go from a degree in agronomy, agriculture, to cutting up rocks? Where does that, correlate? How does that happen?
Yeah, I just got bored one day after, I was a landscape design build company, and I got bored one winter, and I was like, I wonder if I can turn a rock into a sink. And I did just that without knowing what to do. And one thing kind of led to another, and I started cutting big rocks and fire tables and fountains and headstones, address stones, all sorts of different things now. So it's kind of evolved.
Do you like what is there something that you're known for specifically? Like, if you want a water fountain, Travis is the guy, or is there something more specific or niche that you're best known for?
Yeah, it's mostly fire features, but yeah, we do a lot of fountains and fires, mainly what we do.
And is that a full-time job for you? Are you working 40, 60 hours a week on that, on top of parenting, on top of teaching, on top of growing world record pumpkins?
Yeah, it's a lot to juggle. The nice thing is the pumpkin patch is right outside. So you get the machines going, you go check on the pumpkins, vice versa.
Excellent. Other than growing giant pumpkins, Travis, what do you do, or what do you and your family like to do together?
Ski, play hockey, golf, fish, water ski, hunt. Yeah, do a little bit of everything.
All the things. At your college that you teach at, are you the coolest teacher? You're teaching, and you told me that you teach like shrubs and horticulture and kind of landscapey type of things. But are you like the class that everybody wants because that's the guy that grows the giant pumpkins, and he obviously knows his stuff?
It was pretty funny the other day. My dean brought me a magazine, and her daughter was studying it in school. This classic magazine with the biggest pumpkin ever, and it was kind of neat. So she's like, "This was awesome. My daughter's learning about you."
That's great. Then did you leverage that into a hefty raise for your services?
Nah, I should. I should.
So, like I mentioned in the intro, and you told this to me that over the years you've been growing for 30 plus years. So I went to Pumpkin Fanatic and I looked up some of your stats. Previous to 2020, your personal best had been 1788, which was a big jump from your average pumpkin, which, maybe 1,000-ish pounds with some fluctuation there. And then in that 2020, right? Yeah, 2020, you had a 62-pound jump, and then you've been able to repeat that. Is there any one smoking gun that you can attribute, your success to? What happened 4 years ago?
So 4 years ago, I had a friend stop by my state fair booth, and he showed me his pumpkin plant, and I was like, "Holy cow! What are you doing to that thing?" He's like, "Not much. In fact, I haven't fertilized at all." And I'm like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" And he's like, "I've used sheep manure. I've got good soil there, and this is what happens." And I realized, coming from my old grows, I was able to, get a plant the way I wanted it. And when I moved here, I couldn't. I realized my soil just wasn't cranking the way it should be. So I made that focus to move towards focusing on the soil. And I started with that. And that's when these numbers started increasing pretty good.
Pretty good. That is an understatement. What do you think are some of the most common errors that you see people making, both newbie as well as, veteran?
I would say, this is kind of one of those that it's a very circumstantial thing, but overwatering. Lately I've been thinking, I don't think we need the amount of water that we're putting on these things, but I could be wrong too.
Is there? It's a hard question because it's different for everybody's patch. It's different for everybody's soil. Is there a maybe a metric that you use when you are trying to dial in the water, either be it a percentage or hold it and it doesn't hold its shape? Is there a test that you could recommend to people to aim for with their soil?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be producing a couple videos here on that exact subject, but I'm a visual type of guy, but we are going to be bringing in some moisture meters, and I'll show people how to use those to your advantage a little bit better. But I'm probably, honestly, I'm on to fault. I probably overwater.
Yeah.
Yep.
A little bit of a moron in that case.
Yes. Yep. Especially this year, it was just too wet. So.
Yeah, tell us about your year. What so this year, you had a mere 2471. Do you think that was you had a lot of rain, clouds, cold, hot, hail, tornadoes?
Yeah. Yeah, we had everything. I mean, right away, we had so many storms. I just remember going out there with air tarps and trying to tarp the whole thing, and the plant was getting too big. And I even remember texting a friend going, "Holy cow, if we get one more storm, I'm throwing in the white towel." Like, I just couldn't deal with it. And we got socked with rain up till September 1st. And after that, September, October was gorgeous. The funny part is my pumpkin was done. It didn't put on another inch. It had grown pretty good up until that point, so it was kind of concerning. But my last year's one did the same thing and ended up being a world record. So kind of weird. But yeah, we had a very, very wet and cold year. Our nighttime temps were 40, high 40s, low 50s a lot during peak growth. And I think that really affected the percentage heavy of these pumpkins. In the state of Minnesota last year, we had 7 or 8 double digits, mid double digits or more heavy. And this year we had 0. So if that doesn't tell you something, I don't know what will. So
interesting. So weather definitely, kind of handcuffed your state this year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it was pretty easy to tell, but we kind of convince ourselves otherwise when we have these pumpkins too. So,
right. So this is one that is very interesting to me, and there's going to be some follow-up questions. There's two kind of trains of thought. The rumor on the street is that you're big into the biologicals. Is this true?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you think, or I guess, we could ask the question and get the answer for the follow-up. What do you think, or what is your response to people who kind of poo-poo the biologicals and say it's a bunch of, malarkey, hogwash, it's a bunch of shenanigans. What do you say to that?
I'll even give a recent example. Last week and a half, I got a good grower friend here. He's growing some indoor plants, and I said, "Here, you just got to try some of this stuff." And I gave him a little sample of, 4 or 5 or 6 different things I use. And he took it home, and he's like, "I can already tell within the first 2 feedings, it's just night and day. These plants have never looked like that. They've never perked up like that." He goes, "It's absolutely incredible." And that's how it is. I mean, you look at the stalks and the stems of my plants. I mean, they're completely different than what you're used to.
Right. Now, do you have a set regimen of biologicals? On Monday I use product X. On Tuesday I foliar feed product Z. On Wednesday I use product C and water it in. Is it kind of like an everyday thing, or do you just a glug here and a spray there?
Yeah, that I'm not exactly a baker in the sense that I have an exact recipe, but more than not, I like to mix a lot of things together and throw it on. And I don't, so to speak, do a Monday this, a Wednesday this, a Friday this. It's more, what can we give the plant and when?
Okay.
So yeah, I'll try and use, biology as much as I can. And then, obviously you still need your fertility behind it as well.
Sure. Do you have do you have specific products that you use that you're willing to share with us?
Yeah. I mean, I use a lot of extreme, their Versity. I've got the Mycos wettable powder, Mycos granular, Azos. And then Douglas Plant Health, Myco Seed Treat, I'll use bionutrients, SP1, MT17, Root Excel. Yeah, there's a lot of them. Rootwise, they've got some wonderful products out there. Some Rocky Mountain BioAg from your area there. They've got some dry as well as liquid. Be throwing some of that on. So I'll throw a lot. I mean, I always say any biology is good biology. It's just a matter of what you want to put on. But these, and I even had a meeting with a biotech company today. They've got a really new product that's focused around hydrogen ions and breaking them down with water. And it's kind of cool. It's going to be huge.
If there was, let's say there's somebody watching this now or down the road that, might only have, I don't know, $100.
Yep.
What is the best use of that $100 as far as good biology goes? If your must-haves.
I do like using mycorrhizal fungi. I think that's just amplifying the root zone. With that, you probably need an additional sugar dose to feed that. That's probably the give and take there. But that and then some other nitrogen fixing bacteria, maybe some bacillus blend, however you want to get that. There's a million different types of bacillus, but that'll bring in some disease resistance, some phosphorus uptake. That'd probably be, what I'd focus on. Anything else is probably a bonus. Once you start bringing in trichoderma, things like that, you get your disease resistance.
Gotcha. So let's look in the chat. We got a few things. Terry is new to growing, and this spring will be her or his first year growing. That's awesome, Terry. We'd like to see that. Oh, let's see. Oh, we got another one. Just tinkering. This will be my first year attempting to grow a giant pumpkin. What would Travis say is the biggest bang for the buck for a guy with limited knowledge and very little available time? Ooh, you just couldn't answer that question.
The time thing, I talked to a good friend. He came down and seen the pumpkin, but he said, we get very efficient with our time the busier we get. And you'll learn real quick what you can and can't do and what time you have. But for the time thing, if it's basically pruning, don't let the plant get away from you. Bang for your buck. I would pick something like an Essential Plus, like a 101 or a fish and seaweed product, and coast on that. Give it as much as you can, little doses, as much as you can. So less concentration, more frequent. And if you can do that, you're going to have a healthy plant, and your plant's going to enjoy its life, and you're going to get a big pumpkin.
Would you say if we distill everything down, if you have a healthy plants typically equal big pumpkins?
Yep. If you can keep a plant growing, keep it healthy, you're gonna get rewarded for sure.
How's it going? Hello. Let's see. Who else do we got? Hello, Brian. Brian's great grower.
Yes.
I like his approach is like kind of do not a whole lot and grow giant pumpkins. I wish I could have more of that. Let's see here. What else do we got? So glad to see my face. Why, thank you, Harvey. Yes, I do have more videos coming out. I've done lots of filming. I filmed kind of everything. It's just a question if I have the time to make it into a video, but I'm working on it. Don't forget to ask those questions because we got lots of highs, hellos. Is watering science or art? Asks Eric.
Yeah, it's I would say, I thought about this question yesterday, and I kind of hoped it came about, but I think we try and overanalyze and try and get a little too scientific on almost everything with our growing, and that's not exactly. To fault, we typically put in a little bit, almost too much science into this and overcomplicate things. But watering can be pretty simple. You can stick your finger in the soil and go, okay, that's wet, that's saturated. And by far and away, what you're doing is you're just hurting your roots. You know, up top they might be all right, but down low they're just rotted off.
Right. I will say, I will add, I used, and this is a question we can ask it right now, and I will interject my own statement. Was I used a moisture probe this year, and I really liked it. And the coolest thing that my takeaway that really blew my mind was that at about day 20 to 30, when that pumpkin started to take off, I had to double the amount of water that I was watering to keep my moisture percentage the same. And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't have that probe. Do you use any kind of fancy, fun technology, any wizardry?
No, I don't. This will be my first year next year using one. But with that being said, I mean, yeah, there's a whole topic there that I'm going to cover in the next few weeks here. Hoping to have those videos launched. But yeah, it's an interesting topic, and we now have that technology to monitor this stuff economically and pretty available at our fingertips. So
Yeah.
use it if you got it.
It was really cool. It's literally on my phone. I can be like, boop, beep, boop, boop. Oh, I'm at 32%, whatever it was. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
The one word of caution I'll say about that is, how do you know what to keep it at? How does the average person know?
It's a great question, Travis. Travis, how do you know what to keep it at?
Well, you should know a few terms: field capacity and wilting point. Okay. And a lot of people think field capacity is the type where your bucket holds the water and then it just starts overflowing with water. That's not field capacity. Field capacity is actually measured 2 to 3 days after a rainfall. That's your field capacity. So, again, you want to be less than that, but more than the wilting point. And that's for every soil and every condition, even temperature, humidity, wind, it's going to change. But that's part of my video that I'll have coming out too. So it's going to be pretty neat.
Are these are these are these videos you're shooting for your own YouTube channel?
No, yeah, exactly. That's what they'll be. They'll be accessible to everyone.
What do you know the name of? Do you know the name of your YouTube channel off the top of your head?
Yeah, Travis's Pumpkins.
Why?
Yeah.
Thanks for saying hello. Yeah, that's one of the biggest ones. And just tinkering as a follow-up, if soil health is key, what is the first thing to do to clay soil to improve it? Sand, manure, biologicals out of the bag? Question mark.
Yeah, if you're doing a clay soil, you've got a little bit of more of an uphill battle, but the best way to modify any soil is with organic matter. I get you don't want to have your organic matter off the chart, but I've added hundreds of yards of leaves and grass and you name it, and my organic matter is still only at 4 or 5%. So you can get away with a lot, but you don't necessarily want to put just a little bit amount of sand in it. You need to actually take more than half and become sand then, okay, to get that clay to move. So what I would focus on is, yeah, your manures, like that turkey manure. It's light, it's airy, it's not real heavy like a kind of a horse or a cow. And then your leaves, grass, maybe some pumice, and you'll be sitting pretty good. You could add a lot of sand if you want, but
Is
not.
there an organic matter that's too high, and what are the dangers of being too high in your organic matter?
You know what? Yes. I mean, I think when it's over 10, you're probably too high. But and here's the thing. It works great. That's not the issue. The issue is, at what point do you get disease? At what point are you holding too much water? That's the issue. I don't think organic matter by itself is really a bad thing. It's what it leads to. is the bad thing.
Yeah, I have, even myself, I have an abundance of clay. I was broad forking today and just trying to interrupt that clay. I'm going to put down lots of perlite and some, I'm going to use cocoa coir this year. So try hopefully a sterilized organic matter to not bring any more disease, because I do have Pythium and Fusarium. So trying to not do that. So just tinkering. Yes, but be careful of the organic matter. With that, it could be disease problems in your future if you really go crazy. Well, let's see. Cliff said a year ago, said something about burying your vines very, very deep. Can you elaborate on that? That's the microphone.
I'm actually kind of doing the opposite. I'm raising them up now, which this year I think if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have been driving to California. No doubt about it. Like, we would have been done in July. So this year I kind of raised them up, but I also buried them with a lot of soil. So that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of making a teepee, and at the top of that teepee is my vine, and then I have all this nice potting soil that it basically latches onto. Within a week, you can see the roots popping out the sides. Then I'll throw all my biology and amendments right in there, and it's good to go right off the bat.
Gotcha. What do you think about Stelz, who doesn't bury his vines, and he is kicking 7 kinds of what?
Yeah, I mean, there's something to it. Again, different environment there, but yeah, to me, I think that's one of the only things we got is how well we can bury vines. But yeah, I mean, I'll get double, triple roots coming out the top. So I don't know. I don't see how that can be good, but he's obviously doing something right. So yeah.
Right. How wet? Because speaking personally for myself, and this is Charlotte to everybody. Say hi, Charlotte. Speaking for myself, like a lot of times that top root just doesn't fire off, even though I bury it. Is it not wet enough? Do I need to do more mix? What it sounds like you have excellent root growth off of your vine burying. Is there, what do you think is the key there?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just it's getting that right mix in there that has all the nutrients, all the biology, just sitting there for that root to just thrive on. And if you can do that, I think you're gonna see a difference in energy. That's the main thing. Again, where it hurts is if you were rotting your vines. If we're burying them and they're rotting, that's not good either. But the way I'm doing it, I would say I'm seeing exposed vines after probably a few weeks. My vines are almost exposed and the roots are there.
So, now, are you doing them in the teepee or raising them up? So I assume you're probably like putting some earth underneath them, some of your soil. And then are you doing that to encourage water to shed away from the vine so it doesn't rot?
Yep. The only problem with it was this year we had so many storms and high winds. So now instead of my leaves being 3.5 feet tall, they're now 4 feet tall. Well, you can about imagine how that went over with 70, 80 mile an hour winds and knocking down corn and everything else. So,
yeah.
But they did all right. But yeah, you are increasing that height, which I don't like.
Let's see here. Harvey says he got 19% heavy this year off of your 2560.
That's crazy. That's insane.
That is excellent. One question that I have: what are you doing this year, like right now, or maybe a few months ago, a few weeks ago, not a few months? What are you doing this year to get ready for next year? What should we all be doing?
What should you guys be doing, or what am I doing?
Well, what are you doing? Because whatever you're doing, world record holder, we want to copy it.
Right now, my big thing is I'm trying to get a team of individuals together that will dissect this grow into different parts and assemble the right team with the right people to go, okay, here's what you need for, maybe even a greenhouse, ventilation, moisture, fertilizer, biology. Here's my go-to people. Let's each break this thing down and let's dissect this and let's give it our all. So that's kind of what my next jump is.
So like pure like scientific method, using some of that teacher in you.
Yeah, I think we overcomplicate things, but I'm at the level where we need to overcomplicate things too a little bit. But yeah, right now I think it's the off season. Enjoy some time with the family, whatnot. But we can be doing a lot of things, gathering seeds, figuring out, how we're going to feed next year better, dosatrons, sprinklers, drip lines, things like that. Just getting everything prepared ahead of time will give us a jump in the spring.
Missouri Pumpkin Works wants to know: have you ever been recognized in person or in public? And who's the coolest person you've met since winning Half Moon Bay?
Oh, yeah, I have. It's been pretty fun, especially when you wear the grower's jacket. That happens to meet a lot of people that way. I guess I don't know who the coolest one I've met is, but yeah, it's been something else since winning.
And Carrie wants to know: have you ever used Mighty Mustard? And if so, were you happy with the result?
I haven't. I know a lot of people do. Mustard meal's a great biofumigant, or mustard in general is a great biofumigant. Um, I haven't, just because if I want to grow every year in the same spot, I can't. Like, I guess I kind of could, but it's Minnesota. It's kind of tough to do. I'd have to be growing simultaneously and then mow it under, I guess.
Dr. Dave, hey Travis, do you terminate your early secondary vines? If so, when?
Pretty early. It doesn't take me too long. I start terminating those secondaries right away. Boy, I'd say I'm already terminating for surely, I would say almost mid-May, end of May.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, but your vines also grow like 2 foot a day or something crazy.
They're weeds right away. Yeah, they're weeds. So
How big of a space do you grow in, and what pattern do you grow in?
very good. I grow in my typical plant is 47 by or 45 by about 57 foot wide. And I'll grow outside that sometimes. Yeah, 40 by 57 ish. But yeah.
And do you do Christmas tree, Moby Mike spider method, deadheaded?
I don't know what I do. I guess I just kind of grow my main. I'll keep that going. I'll try and shoot out all the side vines. I'll try and get that secondary stem off the pumpkin growing, or that secondary vine off the pumpkin growing. This year, what was kind of cool is my triple M wasn't growing very good right away, and it allowed me to get like an entire new plant off that secondary stem because it wasn't sucking that much energy right away. It was slow, slow, slow. Versus Rudy kind of came out of the gate a little bit quicker. I was only able to grow that secondary vine off the pumpkin, and it wasn't putting out a tertiary off that.
Yeah.
Granted, both my pumpkins were on secondaries, so I guess it was a tertiary, and I was trying to get quads, but whatever.
And you keep on making statements that are great questions. The general rule of thumb is that you have to grow your pumpkin off of the main vine, otherwise, might as well not even do it. You have proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's not true. Do you think that there's a benefit to the main vine, or is secondary because one of your big ones was off a tertiary, right?
Yeah, that was the world record, was on the tertiary.
Off tertiary vine, right? So could it have been a 3,000-pound pumpkin if it was on the main vine?
Yeah, I mean, I'd still like to grow on the main vine, but I don't know. This year I grew on a secondary. That wasn't very good. Tertiary was probably better.
Interesting.
I've got a 2560 on a main, 2471 on a secondary, and a 2749 on a tertiary. So use one of those.
So on that on that logic train, everybody should be growing on the tertiary vine.
Yeah, right.
BNS Giant Pumpkins, do you have a specific carbon to nitrogen ratio that you're aiming for?
Oh man, the soils class is in the spring, so I forget a lot of that information, but I do. I do. I forget what it is. Oh man, I don't even want to say it because I know I'll screw it up. But yeah, I do try and hit that, and it's actually probably my hardest thing to hit and control.
So you gave a talk at the big show 2 years ago, I think.
A year ago, yeah.
And you talked about tests. So talking about ratios and soil bio, blah, blah, blah. Now's a good time to ask the question, what are your favorite soil tests?
So right now, I only do one test in the spring, send it away, quick modify, and then I grow. I don't do any tissue testing. I did in 2022. I sent away a tissue test. It came back as I needed more nitrogen, which I do think certain times of the year we do need some more nitrogen than what the average person says. But if you send away a tissue test right now, or not right now, during the season to Western Labs, here's what they're going to send you back. Chad, you need more nitrogen, you need a little copper, and you probably need some sulfur.
Sounds right. I think they told me that exactly.
That's what they're going to tell you. Save me money, send me some money, and I'll analyze it. Right? So here's my point. Yes, those guys are smart. Yes, they're lab rats, whatever. It's awesome. But I think it can discover some of the deficiencies. Don't get me wrong. But overall, like, you're telling me at this exact point in the grow, at this exact leaf stage, at this axis, sending it away in a bag for a week, that they're able to tell me this is what I need to grow at 2749.
Right.
I'm having a hard time believing it.
Yeah. And in the springtime, what is that test that you do? Is it just a soil test?
Yeah, just standard soil test. This year I did do a bee crop test, which is really neat. If you don't know what that is, it basically measures your biology on a scale of 1 to 100 for every different species. Okay. So now you can take that, and I got a whole printout of it, and I had it analyzed by a couple different people. But we can figure out where the deficiencies of our biology is. So, for example, say calcium. What is it? Bacillus megaterium, I think, is 100% linked to calcium. At any rate, say you don't have that, but you're putting in plenty of calcium and you're just not seeing the results of it. Well, maybe you're low on that biology. You add that biology, suddenly your calcium tissue test goes way up. Okay.
Interesting.
So really cool stuff that's out there right now if you want to use it. The Hanny test is kind of neat. That's kind of a dyno for your engine, but a dyno for your soil. So
and that's the one I was thinking you would say, because that was a big part of your presentation.
It's neat. Again, how accurate is it? I don't know.
Gotcha. And then to close that one out, so if you're low on the Bacillus calciumosus, beneficial, are you able to then like buy that? I'm deficient in my phosphorus biological. Can you get that specific biological to rectify that problem?
Absolutely. They can make that exact bug for you and send it to you and put it in
Interesting.
within, days. So that's kind of where we're at.
Ashley wants to know, could you describe your ideal plant at pollination? The square footage, how long did you let it, how long do you let the first secondary get?
So I think pollination needs to be looked at a little bit differently, but typically it's, that 15 to 20 feet down the main vine or whatever. Secondary, tertiary, we just talked about that, whatever you got there, pollinate it. And at that point, you're probably, I think Don Young asked me once and I responded with 485 square feet is what I wanted. And if the number rings a bell to me, but it's like a 20, say a 23-foot plant because you're not quite out at the end, right? And then your sides are all filled in, say 11 foot, 12 foot each side by then. Maybe a little bit more Christmas tree because the ends haven't come in, but yeah, pretty decent sized plant.
And I will say, I will push back a little bit and say that there's a lot of people growing 2,000 plus pound pumpkins with plants that are much smaller than that.
Yes.
Not 2,700 pound pumpkins, but very big pumpkins.
But again, to tie into what Ashley said, timing. Look at your weather. If your weather's just terrible for the next week, maybe wait for that second one. You got to understand this is peak growth here that you're trying to look at. Look at the extended forecast. And a lot of people will try and keep that pumpkin, uniform temp, maybe build a hut over it. That's great, but it's really your whole plant that needs that situation.
There, in the same vein, I didn't write it down, but I wanted to ask it. Do you measure your pumpkins, and do you measure your pumpkins? What has been your biggest gain / is there gains that you kind of benchmark gains that you shoot for? And if you don't meet them, are you then trying to push the plant harder?
Yes and no. Usually day 30, I'll shoot for that 500 plus. Okay, 500 to 600, you're doing pretty good. Day 40, you're at 1100. Day 50, you're at 1500. Day 60, you're usually knocking on that 2,000 pounds, maybe 1,900. Usually by day 70, you've already passed that 2,000 pound mark. And then anything past there is a bonus.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How many pounds? What was your best week? Maybe not a specific pumpkin, but what was your best week that you've ever had, if you know off the top of your head?
The best what?
As far as weight gain, like your best gain.
Usually I can hit that, I always say 3/4 of an ounce a minute, which is about, your 68, 70 pounds a day type thing.
Okay. And then if you're not hitting those numbers, are you intentionally saying like, well, my goal is to beat my personal best. I'm not on that track. Thus, I'm going to feed more nitrogen, or I'm going to give it more water. Maybe not this year or last year, but you're going to try to speed it up.
Yeah, I noticed a big difference. I've always had very, very equal numbers in all my grows. But I did notice this year, like that triple M started really slow. And I just think it was a genetic thing with that exact pumpkin. Other ones I knew just shot out of the gate. But for whatever reason, this thing was really slow right out of the gate. But I think it would have made it up on the backside. So I'd say to that, don't give up, because if I look at the season, you got a decent early pollination, say June 6th or whatever, there's a lot of time to make that up at the end.
Right.
So just keep that plant growing. And it doesn't really matter how fast we grow to some degree. What matters is we're still packing on weight come September and October. That's going to be the big deal down the line.
Interesting. Jody, what is your opinion on heating cables? Do you use them? And how hot is too hot for the cables?
I like to use heating cables. I'm a pretty big advocate of that. Too hot for your soils, probably in that 80 plus range for sure. But you got to watch your cables too. I mean, I plugged one in the one time and I just walked away for like 5 minutes and I came back and the thing was basically burning my hand and melted. So, yes, it was coiled up. It shouldn't have been, whatever. But they get hot quick, some of the gutter cables. So I'll try and keep my old school gray ones, we'll say, up towards the top. And if I did use a gutter cable, I'll use it on the bottom.
And you use, oh man, I'm trying to be funny and come up. Inkbird for all your heat cable control needs.
Yes.
I think you use the Inkbirds, right?
Yes, you got to have a bunch of sensors out there.
And that's just a simple, if memory serves me right, just you set it to whatever temperature you want, you bury that probe, right?
Yep. This year I had one at 3 foot, 2 foot, 1 foot, and I could tell what the soil temp was.
Wow. So yes, Jody, but just make sure you use an Inkbird controller. Tell them Travis sent you.
Yeah, it's kind of neat to see. And again, back to the biology thing, it heats up your soil like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I bet I could have not used heating cables this year.
Yeah. Dan wants to know, what seeds are you growing next year?
That's a good question. I haven't officially figured that out, but that 2670 Thompson really jumps out at me. It's got the Maverick crossed into it, which I think could grow for about 365 days and still put on weight. So that's not a bad gig if you can put some degree of heavy before that. I think that's a powerhouse cross there. The 2144 Baron, I don't like the 2183 Mendy, but needless to say, sorry, Ruben. That was my one seed that I failed with, so I gotta hate it. But it's got that heavy to it, and then you've got the 1885 behind it. So that's a great. I mean, there's no doubt that it can go quite a bit heavy. And
right.
What we have to look for is, I'm looking for the longevity of grow right now. I know when I grew my Maverick, it was still growing on a day 120. No problem. Wow. These last two 365s kind of ended early on me. For whatever reason, I don't know if it was a genetic thing. You don't want to push those thick walls. I don't know what the deal was, but I'm looking for something that can continue to grow late.
Towards the end of the lifetime of your pumpkins, you say you're looking for longevity. Like, what are we talking about? Are we talking 10 pounds a day, 1 pound a day? Is there, you want to see something meaningful?
I want to see movement on a tape measure. I'm not a scale grower yet, but I just want to see some movement on a tape measure. I know from day 100 to 120, Maverick picked up 150 pounds on the tape measure.
Wow.
That's the last 20 days of its life. And you got to understand, we're getting some pretty darn cold temps. So it was pretty much donezo.
My question is, are you going to the GPC Big Show?
Yeah, I'll probably try and be there. I daughter's kind of got a recital that weekend, so we'll see. I'll probably be there.
And if you guys don't know, if there's anybody in the chat who is not privy to that, the GPC is the Great Pumpkin Commonwealth. It's the international club, the governing body. It's the big club. And every year they have a expo, a meeting where people like Travis will come up, we'll talk, we'll give out awards, we'll have seminars on how to grow a 2750 pound pumpkin. And it's a really good time. I've got to talk to Travis a few times there, listen to his presentations. If you haven't done so, go to gpc1.org. This year it's in Green Bay at the
Lambeau Field.
Lambeau, that's right.
It's a great chance to meet people. I mean, too. Yeah. You might see these names online and not know who they are, but it's a great chance to talk to people, exchange seeds, tips, tricks.
It's a ton of fun whenever you're around, because we're like a very niche group of nerds. So when you are around people who nerd out on the same thing that you nerd out on, it's a lot of fun because they don't like, if you say 27.49 to your wife, she's like, is that how much money you spent? You're like, no, I'm talking about the world record pumpkin. So to be around people who know what an 1885 or a 2000, whatever, insert your favorite seed there. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. Go check it out. Just tinkering as another one. Is soil biology? This is a good question. We have lots of excellent questions tonight. Is soil biology more important than genetics?
I mean, I think you need the genetics, but I do think people grow to their abilities. I've got tons of different examples of that I could name, but we grow to our ability. Okay. And the seed, yeah, there's some differences in the seed, don't get me wrong. And I do think there's such a thing as some magic bullet seeds. But when you drive by a cornfield, how many stalks do you see standing up a foot taller than the rest?
Right.
Not many, right? So that's where we are with seeds. You're going to get this for the most part. So with that being said, if we can groom those seeds with the best care, the best soil biology, the best soil, we're going to get a big pumpkin at the end of the year. There's no doubt if it holds together.
Okay. Tell us about your growing area and what are some of the challenges that are specific to your growing area? I'm pretty positive you don't grow to greenhouse. You don't have, a giant automated grow facility, really awesome like the Paytons do. What are you rocking, Travis?
So I live north of the Twin Cities in Minnesota, which it's typically pretty cold there, where I would say we're 10 degrees below average from what the Twin Cities is. If you look at our nighttime temps are usually fairly cold, good Minnesota summers. But we start out cold in the spring, we end cold in the fall, just like everyone. But that midsummer is usually pretty ideal. I grow in a spot where I've been cutting my trees back a little bit, trying to get more light to the patch. It started out where I would only get light 10 to 4. Now I think I'm 9 to maybe 4, but I'm filtered light at about 3:30. So that sun hits the west. I've got 2 oak trees that kind of shade the patch a little bit, and that's what I'm growing. I'm up on a hill. It is a fairly sandy loam soil, good drainage. I grow over a septic tank. That helps add some soil biology. I don't know.
The secret is your, you know what?
Yeah. Every house I've ever grown at, 3 of them, the biggest ones have grown over the septic system.
Interesting. And that's no insert that word. My daughter's still floating around here somewhere. Can you tell us how you water? Do you use drip? Do you overhead on average? How much water do you use? Do you do multiple times a day? Tell us about water.
Yeah, so my watering system's pretty basic right now. I've got a dosatron, which is a fertilizer injector, and I'll put whatever in the bucket for the day, and then I'll inject it in to a sprinkler. And I've got 2 sprinklers that spin around. I adjust them, based upon the shape of the plant. I'll put them on some sort of stake so they're way up high and can get everything. But it's hard to water that big of a plant too. So that's really a challenge for me. And then I water out of a cold well water every day. And typically I'll water multiple times throughout the day. And when I'm watering, I'm feeding every time.
Okay. Do you use any cool, neat, fun technology in your grow? I would say the follow-up to that would be like an EC or a PPM meter. Do you use any sort of tech?
Yes, I do have a wonderful, I think it's, a pair of instruments, a EC meter and a parts per million or pH meter for sure. and I'll use that. And then I'll also use my Beehive phone timer to water. So
Do
yeah.
you what would your what are your recommended to people your pH, your EC slash ppm? Like, what do you think is are you blasting it at a 2.0 EC, or are you like a point 0.5 kind of guy?
Well, to be honest, I'm probably like a point 0.7 for the most part, and I don't play around with that too much, but it just always seems like that's what it comes out at. So that's pretty much where I sit, which isn't crazy. I mean, it's not like it's a 2.5 or anything.
Yeah,
Um, I'll sometimes foliar feed a little bit heavier, but for the most part, it's point 0.7 and I send it. But if you're honestly putting on a point 0.7 throughout the year, you're going through some stuff if you're not getting rain.
gotcha. And what about your pH? What's your favorite pH?
I try and keep it right around that 7 if you can. This year, I felt like I really adjusted my pH more than ever. And well, we know how that worked. No, before I'd be sending out pHs of 9s and whatever.
Wow. So Brian, the Turner Ranch, said my parents just stopped to have dessert for my birthday. Happy birthday, Brian. And if you're doing numbers, I will take number 51. So, with that being said, today we are going to we've been floating around 80, 85 people. Let's do 125. Your number range is 1 through 125. Pick that number, post it in the chat, and you have to be here at the end. Jason can't track people down to get your information. So be here at the end of the chat, and I will do the random number generator. And if your number is chosen, Travis we will get you some of Travis's seeds from this year, which are amazing seeds. Travis, are you going to do 1 lot, 2 lot, 20 lots?
Whatever you want, Chad.
Let's do 3. If you're cool with 3, let's do 3. So we'll do 3 numbers, 1 through 125, and you have to promise to subscribe to this channel and Travis's channel, or else he'll get you. So, holy moly, lots of comments already. Excellent. This is a question that I wanted to ask you for myself. I'm wearing my P-Fest.
Yeah, there you go.
Teresa went down.
Teresa must have brought that too. Yeah.
She did, yeah. And I want to know, what is Half Moon Bay like? There's not a lot of people that have been, in the grand scheme of things, right? Not a lot of people that have been to Half Moon Bay, the Super Bowl of Way-Offs versus our local ones. Can you tell us, what is Half Moon Bay like?
It's pretty neat. It's an orchestration. I think we're all used to a grower run way off, and that's just not what this is. It's run by a very large marketing company, Miramar Events. So you pull up there, and there's like a mobile satellite tower that can assist with their way off. But what's cool about it is, yeah, it's a big event, but it's also, we wake up at 4 in the morning for this event. So we just get that night. And then there's kind of a little pre-party thing. And then you wake up at 4 in the morning. And this year we didn't roll until like 5. And there was already reporters. And I think they had already interviewed Brandon and a couple others. And we were late to the party already at 5 a.m. So
That's a long day.
yeah, it's a super long day, but
And
yeah,
they have
it's really neat.
breakfast too?
Yeah, they have breakfast for you. They'll go bring you McDonald's or whatever you want. So
Nice. And do you feel like, because somebody asked this question earlier, at Half Moon Bay, do you kind of feel like this is what a rock star feels like?
yeah, it's neat. This year they had a lot of publicity, a lot of reporters, a lot of live stream action too. I mean, so yeah, it's neat. I almost feel like I almost had to kind of defend that title, kind of like the UFC. You can't just vacate.
Because that's so. How long of a drive is that for you?
30, 32 to 35 hours.
Jesus, and that's you're going straight through, right?
Yep.
Oh,
And it's sketchy. Like we got there and the pumpkin had little cracks on the front, and people are like, "Well, is that from the ride?" And I'm like, it could be, but I think it was because it dried out on the front and just had those little hairline cracks. But yeah, it's. I mean, you hit some bumps in there, and you're like, "Wow, if that pumpkin's still alive, I'm going to be surprised."
Yeah, that's got to be a white knuckle, clencher the whole way. And then what is it like, for that Brian in the chat or DJ in here when they eventually win Half Moon Bay? What is winning like?
You get off stage and you usually have quite a few reporters in your face, sticking cameras in your face. By the time you can even make it back um, to see Tim, the event organizer, you've got 2 media requests on there, and they're the big ones. They'll farm out all the news to all the stations. So, um, in fact, the one year I got done, by the time I could even make it back to the bench, Regis and Kelly or Ryan and Kelly were already on the phone saying, "We want your pumpkin."
Wow.
So news travels very fast and it's always surprising. But then that next week, you're dealing with like, I don't know why Ireland's so big in this pumpkin growing thing, but they are. They love talking about it on the radios and talk shows. So I do a lot of Ireland interviews, New Zealand, Canada, but all worldwide, New York to California. You got to know all your different time zones. So
Yeah.
I miss a lot of interviews just because I need like a supercomputer in front of me to figure out all the different time zones and scheduling and you name it. But
And is your wife like holding your hand because she just knows that there's a pumpkin groupies that's gonna swoop you away from her?
Yeah. She always says it's not a vacation. It's not a vacation. It probably isn't, but yeah, we make a lot of memories, I guess. So it's fun.
Travis, what are some of your top tips for the newest of the new grower? We have a few of them in here. It looks like that are growing for their first time. What are some of your top tips for those new growers?
Start small. I mean, don't try and grow 4, 5, 6 plants. That takes a lot.
Oh,
Just focus on 1 or 2 and do it right and do the right steps, and you're going to have a lot better success. I get there's a thing with chances, growing 7, 8 of them by default. One should go astronomically heavy and big, but start small. And with that being said, you know, I would just pick a standard fertilizer like a Neptune's Fish and Seaweed or a Essential Plus or something that's, overall, feed it regularly as much as you can, little bits at a time, lots of frequency with less concentration there. And then watch your bugs, watch your diseases, and get after it. Make sure you got that pollination around that mid June to, early July. Make sure you get that pollination set. And once it's growing, sit back and relax. Most of your work comes early on. I would say come August, I'm on coast mode.
absolutely. Great tips. DJ would like to know about your LED lighting from
Yeah.
germination on.
Yeah, I love doing the lights. I've always been a pretty big advocate of this. I mean, for how many ever years, but what a good quality light can do is just incredible. And the new ones are even better. I mean, they can wake your plants up, put them to bed, uh, change with the light intensity throughout the day. But for me, it's just you get that light on them and you get it on them right away. And I'm not saying you got to really bake them like some of the crazy new cannabis lights are almost too powerful for your pumpkins, but start it right from the word go. Um, what I found is you want that short, stocky plant right away. and that'll kind of kick its butt into thinking, hey, I'm outside, I'm going to be growing. And you give it that right conditions, the right soil, the right fertility, and your light's going to do a lot of the work too. And you're going to keep up with a pretty good plant right away.
Excellent.
And I'll run those lights as long as I can. I mean, if I could have ran them in June this year, if I was in a greenhouse, holy cow, we would have been running them.
Is there a greenhouse in your future, Travis? Are you jealous of all of us greenhouse guys?
Yeah, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of environments that I don't necessarily believe in a greenhouse. Minnesota, plants love consistency. There's no secret there. In Minnesota, we just don't get it. I mean, I've always said I can grow a 3,000 pounder outside. Don't get me wrong. But this year proved to me, like, why am I going to go through all this work, all this time, all this trouble with when the weather just isn't going to give it up? You know, I mean, I worked hard for this 2471. You know, you would have swore I was trying to grow a 3,000 pounder, which I was, but I only got a 2471. And so it's like, I think there's a future there.
Excellent. Fred, there we go. Do you use potassium chloride in the fall?
I guess I don't know if it's potassium chloride, but I'll throw my 0025 on right up till the end.
It's lots of sand. I have a question, Travis, and I ask everybody, are you a sandbagger?
No, I'm an open book. Everyone kind of knows what I have.
Let's see. You said you didn't know. What seed are you growing this year? You mentioned some of the hot seeds that you like.
Yeah, the 2465 Sperry probably stands out too, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. People are asking all my good questions. Are you going to make, or what changes are you going to make in 2025 from 2024? What are you going to add? What are you not going to do?
Yeah, right now the big one is I'm regardless of how much rain I get, I'm gonna feed differently. I have to feed a lot, and I have to feed what I know works. This year I just didn't. I used the least amount of fertilizer I ever have, and it cost me. You know, I feel like it cost me in the percentage heavy, in the overall growth. So regardless of if it's raining and whatever, I'll figure out a way to get it in there. That's probably going to be one of my big changes. Next year, I might use some soil moisture meters, and I will be doing that. Hopefully, having a team of professionals behind this grow that can kind of assist me with what I need. That's going to be the other big thing, and we're going to break it down pretty good, and we're going to really try and slam this thing home.
Excellent. Eric wants to know. So what I'm hearing is that none of the rules matter, and we should just send it.
Yeah. Yeah, you just got to send it. You know, I mean, I don't know.
You have some guidelines. You know,
yeah,
some parameters.
Everyone always thinks, you know, you just throw it on. You just throw it on. Yeah, to a point. But again, less is more on the concentration thing. I'm never high on my concentrations. I'm fairly low, but frequent.
This is a question that I am curious about. What do you think? Is CO2 worth it?
Saving money? Absolutely not. When do we need CO2? When the light is very intense. When is your light very intense? It's midday. How are you putting in CO2 midday when your greenhouse is open?
So that's fast.
I think
a lot of people that say like CO2 will change your life. Colors will be brighter.
You know, and don't get me wrong. I think there's something to it. If we've got an indoor grow, we've got all these big cannabis plants that are taking all the CO2. We got to supplement that somehow. Maybe if you got a big pumpkin, you got a closed greenhouse. Sure, supplement. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying when do we really need it? When the sun is intense, we got to have that, and we have to be cooling our greenhouse when the sun is intense, because you're going to be 110 degrees before you know it.
Right.
So, with that being said, and there's a lot of different ways to get CO2. A lot of people think, well, okay, I got to open up the CO2 tank. I had CO2 10,000 plus parts per million every single morning, every single night. My soil was cranking it.
Interesting. And that's another one of those, kind of to go back to like what Eric, just sending it. It's everybody does everything different. You have to find what works for you, and what works for Travis might not work for a guy in Colorado in a greenhouse, which doesn't work for the Paytons in the UK, which doesn't work for Mindy in Spain. You got to kind of have those guidelines and figure out what works for you.
Yeah, I turned on a CO2 tank for about 2 days this year.
Interesting. Local man Andrew wants to know, I think Andrew's, yeah, how much do you change your fertilization based off the plant stage and looks, since you don't do many soil tests?
Yeah, you should be able to look at your plant and kind of go, okay, obviously we need some more nitrogen. Obviously we need to knock our nitrogen down. That's pretty easy to tell. Cobra heads, thick vines, thick stalks. You can look at the leaves. Granted, you got to also kind of tell where your plant's at. If it's at the end, of course, it's going to be nitrogen bloated. You cut that end, you get a bloat of nitrogen there. So you should be able to look at your plant and kind of determine what it needs a little bit. For me, I've got different stages of growth. Right away, I'm just hitting biology, and I'm actually trying not to use any real fertilizers right away. And what I say by real fertilizers is like a 20-20-20 or something like that.
Sure.
I'm getting plenty of nutrients based off just biology, humic, kelp, maybe a light fish or seaweed, 101, 201, whatever it is. Very, very light stuff, and just keep that plant cranking. Once my pumpkin set, yeah, sure, I'm gonna switch the day it sets. I'm gonna start putting on my Cal Mag, my 0025s, my TKOs or phosphates rather, and then I'm still going to continue all original stuff.
Is there a brand of fertilizer that you like and recommend? I
like growth products, Douglas Plant Health too. They make everything down to the biology all the way up to your fertility. But yeah, when it comes for fertilizers, I always just try and recommend some sort of, humic, kelp, seaweed thing for someone, whether it be a Neptune's or whatever that is, okay? Get that out there and coast on that, and that's your base. Then you can kind of tweak these micronutrients accordingly.
There we go. I changed the banner. Always go to wallacewow.com. Ron has lots of that stuff. This one. A phone-in request from Jason Florell.
Yeah. Didn't use it on my 2560 North American record. Did use it on the world record. This year, I went different and used Anthesis, kind of in the same category.
From Matt?
Yeah. Next year, I would maybe think about using Florell again. But again, I don't. Some people swear by the stuff. I don't. It is what it is. I don't think it gives you an extra 10, 15% like some say, but hey, more power to you. It's kind of like fishing. You need a lure that you have confidence in. If Florell's your confidence, go for it.
Is there any downside to Florell?
Yes and no. You could screw it up, you put on the wrong concentration, but not really. I don't see too much. So,
and for those that don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong here, because this is not my jam necessarily, but Florell is a growth hormone of some sort, inhibitor or enhancer, because I know it's like a fruit deterrent for your trees.
Yes,
But
for olives.
you dilute that, paint it on your baby pumpkin like 24 hours after pollination, and it's supposed to delay cellular division, which then you have more cells. So you're building cells, building cells, building cells, and then they start to divide. So you want to have more cells that then equals more divisionable cells. So you have a bigger pumpkin. Would that be a quick and dirty version?
Yeah, I mean, you've got cell division and cell expansion. You're just going to spend a little bit more time in the cell division stage, and then you're going to get to the cell expansion stage a little bit later. That's the theory behind it. Quite a few people have had decent results with it. I mean, I guess it has a world record, so I can't knock it too much, but I don't know. Yeah.
Right. So it could definitely be one of those things like it doesn't hurt. If, like you said,
Yeah.
if it makes you feel better, let her rip.
Yep.
All right. Missouri Pumpkin Works. Who were some of the pumpkin mentors that you've had in the last 30 years?
One of the original guys was Glenn Brown. I think he had the U.S. record in the back. Oh gosh, I can't even remember the date. Probably around 96, with the 982-pound pumpkin. He was a guy that I kind of went over and looked up to, and went over to his house and seen what he did, and that was cool to me. But that kind of got me started. And other than that, I mean, I haven't really. It's been a lot of self-taught stuff. I'm kind of a self-taught type of a person, and I'm like my daughter at dance class. She'll be off in the left field, just doing her thing, and then everyone's dancing over here. So that's kind of how I grow too. I kind of discovered something that really worked by chance, and I was like, well, okay, let's try that. And then I seen some other guys grow in a different way, and I'm like, well, what if we combine these techniques? And then, that's how I kind of got to where I am.
Yeah. I mean, your record speaks for itself just to that. You were a good, consistent grower, and then you became a great grower in the last 4 or 5 years. So if Travis can do it, anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it, trust me.
Good old Pete Casper's GPC regional rep, I believe, is probably your title, Pete. Green Bay is going to be a great time, a good chance to talk to a lot of heavy hitters. Yeah, there's like international. I've got to talk to the Paytons before, super cool guys. Mindy, California guys, everybody. Usually there's just about everybody is there. It's a lot of fun. So check it out. I mean, the downside is you're in Green Bay in February. I mean, I'm just going to say it. Like, I'm a big fan. Like, we should have more of these things in Las Vegas, like Cancun, California, Mexico somewhere, Arizona, like hot, warm.
There you go.
Lambeau in February. I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there, Pete. Just saying. What is your go-to shade cloth percentage? And are you using shade cloth?
I don't use shade cloth much. If I do use shade cloth, it's to prevent a storm. So I'm not a big shade cloth type of a guy, but if that's your jam, go with it. I mean, I would probably say a 30% would be just fine for most situations.
Yep. That's very much a Colorado thing. We need the shade cloth for sure. 20, 30, even 40% is proven to be just fine. Said he's already subscribed to Travis's channel and quickly went through all of his videos. Will he please post more often?
Yeah, we're going to have that soil video or that soil moisture video, and that's going to be a good one. I don't know how much technology I'll put behind it, but it'll be a down and dirty. Here's what you need to know, and here's what you need to know about soil moisture meters and how to get the maximum benefit out of them.
Excellent. So we're kind of starting to wrap it up, guys. Travis has got things to do, kids to take care of, me too. What is your process for starts? Sand or soak? And how long do you grow indoors before they hit the patch?
If I've got a thick brown seed, I might sand it. Soaking, I might soak for just say like 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I'm going right into the dirt. I just tested my Rudy seeds, and it was kind of funny because I threw them on the heat mat and the garbage or in the baggie with the paper towel, and I fried them. Junk. I'm like, these things, they're terrible. They don't grow. Then I'm like, went out to the garden, grabbed some dirt, threw a bucket down. I think all the ones that didn't even grow in the baggie germinated too. They just so I'm right in the dirt. I feel like you got a little bit more give there, so to speak. And I grow inside for 10 days and then I'm outside. I don't care if it's snowing, frozen, whatever, I'm outside.
Wow, really? Just for roots?
Yeah, I mean, if you see my plants on day 12 after even starting the seed, you'll know why I go right to the garden.
Yeah, they're like 10 foot long.
But yeah, it's just I can grow. I grow good inside, but I can grow better outside.
Interesting. And then just tinkering, how big of a pot do you step up before putting? Well, I guess maybe you just use one pot.
Yeah, I do. I'm a 5 gallon bucket from day one.
How do you plant a 5 gallon bucket without that root ball just?
Cut off the bottom of it, flip it over, put a t-shirt on the bottom, tape it to, pull the t-shirt off, plant slips straight through.
5 gallon bucket. Okay, check. Got it. What period of time do you feel is most critical during the grow, if there is one? Are you hammering that seedling, or is it more, maybe 15, 20 days in to the pumpkin, or are you just all about the beginning?
That's a great question. I like my starts. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm big on the starts. I almost think it's funner than growing a big pumpkin. Is starting the plant. But if I had to pick one most important time, it's probably day 0 to 30 of the pumpkin grow. Because that time you're burying your vines, you're really focusing on all the energy and all the techniques that you've done up until this point. And past day 30, I'll be honest with you, I just don't think you're moving the needle much.
Yeah.
You're not gonna, go out there and say, you know what, I'm gonna grow a 3,000 pound pumpkin now. What's done is done. Okay. Your work is either there or it's not. So I would say up until that day 30, you better be putting in your work.
So all about the front load then.
Yep.
Fascinating. That's great. Great advice. Aaron wants to know, do you do anything in the late fall before the frost sets in to condition the soil?
Hey, Frosty, nice to see you. At any rate, yes, I do. I try and get home when the ground's not frozen from California, quick to a till, get all my vines out, and then plant winter rye if I can. This year I was not able to. I probably could plant it right now, and it might grow over the winter, but just try and turn that soil. I'll probably turn it when we're getting a big freeze here. I'll go out and turn it right before, maybe stir up some of that disease and knock it out. I don't know.
So would you? Okay, so if you broad fork or try and flip your soil a little bit, would you potentially leave that until springtime,
Yep.
or would you say flip it, till it, then leave it?
Yeah, I'll tilling, I'll pretty much just broad fork it is the answer. Yeah. And then just leave it for spring.
I may have done that today, so that's a question I'm asking for myself.
There you go. Yeah, I'm not like my Wisconsin overachiever friends that got their soil heating cables in like the day after they picked their pumpkin and went to the wear off and whatnot. So
No,
they're a different breed over there, that Lambeau Field area.
those guys. Yeah, it's all the cheese. It's all you can attribute it to. Yeah, we had 30 inches of snow on Saturday, It was crazy. It was never had that much snow in November.
That's nuts.
So that's why I like my crumbs. I was gonna do the flip then to try and kill some of the disease, but I got it done today, thankfully. So gotta get that done. Ooh, here's a good one. Dawson Acres wants to know: do you add soil or exchange your soil every year? Ooh, soil exchange.
I'm putting in a lot of soil throughout the season, the potting soil, so that all stays in there. I have got to the point where I'm starting to get a little bit of disease in my soil. The thought has come to take a backhoe and just excavate it and bring in new.
Wow.
I'm there. Whether I do it or not, I'm not sure.
Harvey says, I'm never going to use a Florel again. Garbage! It killed all of my male flowers on multiple plants. All of your males or all your females, Harvey?
Yeah. Why is it even touching your males?
You should just
only touch the pumpkin.
On the female. Only on the pumpkin itself, right? Not the lobes or anything like that, just the pumpkin.
Yeah, it shouldn't have any effect on that, but I mean, yeah.
It sounds like you might have used it wrong, Harvey. Maybe a higher.
Spray your whole plant with it. That's bad.
Yeah. Let's see here. A couple more. Got lots of numbers. I joined late. Sorry. Go. Joel wants to know, how frequently do you feed calcium and boron throughout the season? Oh, that's a great question. What are your thoughts on calcium and boron, that relationship? What's your boron number?
So I'll start out every spring and add about a box of borax, which is 4.3 pounds per 2,000 square feet. Okay. If my mind serves me correctly. And my boron number's not astronomical. I think it's at like oh gosh, I don't even know. I'd have to look at my soil report. It's not high at all. So I want to get that up there a little bit. So that's why I put that amount on. And then I will do supplemental boron feedings along with micronutrients and calcium. Calcium's a big one. Same with boron. So, yeah.
Do you think that people, do they chronically over boron or under boron?
I would say the boron is, it's tough to almost get enough of it, I would say, but at the same point, little doses quite frequently would probably help. Yeah, some of the heaviest pumpkins I've known, I've analyzed their soil reports, and I'm like, holy cow, you guys are like off the charts on calcium.
I want to take a look at Jim's soil report. Maybe he'll make that public, because his 25% heavy. That's crazy.
Yeah, 25, 26. Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah,
his that's a seed I'm eyeballing myself this year. That's pretty cool. Do you think that heaviness is, let's rewind that. How much do you think heaviness is equal to genetics? Like, how much is the genetic factor playing into a pumpkin being heavy?
That's a great question. And I would say quite a bit. Okay. You can, I've grown two of the same pumpkins, giving them the exact same thing. Ones went light, ones went way heavy. So with that being said, I do think genetics plays a huge factor. I also think you can feed a little bit to help that. Do not get me wrong, but you also need the weather behind it. And then the other question I'm going to ask is, how big is that pumpkin? Okay. You see a lot of pumpkins in that 1,600 to 2,000 pound range that go heavy.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't see a lot of 24s, 25s go heavy. If they do, they're pretty close to the world record. Okay. Right. Part of me feels like you're limiting your pumpkin if it's going that heavy.
Interesting.
There's a pretty good correlation. Like, look, you're going to end up in that 1,600 to 2,000 pound range. You're going to have a heavy pumpkin. But
so you're saying is that what you should actually be shooting for is just a 2,600 pounder or 20, maybe not 26, but like a 23, 2,400 pounder, because those just intrinsically themselves typically go heavy.
Yeah, I mean, there's no secret there, but I mean, obviously, the bigger the pumpkin, the better. But again, I'm not driving across the country with a 460-inch pumpkin. I'm going to Now Then. I'm going 5 minutes down the road. It's just not going to do it. I don't care what you have. It's just, I mean, I guess it would have done it this year, but that's an anomaly. You can only hope for that, is what I'm saying. So we need to grow for size. We need 500-inch plus. So when you're looking at these seeds, you have to go, what is going to give me a 500-plus inch pumpkin heavy? And that's your answer.
Gotcha. And how frequently, or so going back to pumpkins, typically you only grow one. Well, I mean, it seems like you only grow one real pumpkin. It seems like you start two. Are you ever going to grow more than one, or is you want to?
I mean,
you want
the overall goal is to get two to the finish line, but it just never seems to work that way. So I do like more chances, but at the same point, you're growing, and to do these things right, it just takes so much time. I mean, I always say you need to be sitting on a chair with a margarita and just watching these things grow, and that's your job. And it's tough. I mean, who has the time to do 3, 4, 5? I mean, the way that I'm growing, I'm putting in a lot of effort into that one plant just on a whim and a prayer.
Man, I think of like Dave Steltz growing like 6 or 7, and his 6 or 7 are, all 2,000 plus pounds. And I think like, how awesome is that? But at the same time, I'm like, oh my God, like just the amount of time that has to take is just exhausting even thinking about it. but good for Dave.
Yep. Yeah. It's, you got a lot of time invested there.
Yeah. All right, guys. So here we are. We have reached the end. If you've not done so already, make Dave and Carol. Ashley, you're right. Dave and Carol. Dave has some help, and it's not fair to don't give her some shine too. Dave and Carol, both really nice people. They'll probably be at the GPC meeting, gpc1.org. So if you have not done so, pick your number over there, 1 through 125. Jason, if you could post your email, you will be responsible for sending Jason an email. Travis is generously donating 3 sets of his 2024 pumpkins. That's Rudy and Triple M, right?
Yeah.
So if I pick your number, you need to send Jason an email. You'll post it in the chat. And then the favor we're going to ask of you is subscribe to this channel and subscribe to Travis's channel, which is
Travis's Pumpkins.
So go to his channel, subscribe. He's going to have more videos coming out this year where he will basically guarantee or your money back a 2,000-pound pumpkin.
There you go.
Or something like that. So let's see here. Can I figure out how to do the share screen? Standby callers. I was using a different browser. One moment. All right, let's see here. I'm rusty. This is our first one from summertime. I'm not prepared. Or worst come to worst, I just do it on my phone. We'll go old school style.
Random number generator.
Yep, we're doing it on the phone. I don't want to keep everybody waiting. We're building the suspense. Random If I could spell random
number
generator. All right, here we go. So the first number, where's my camera, is number 78. So Jason just posted his email, pumpkinjason@icloud.com. The second winner is number 100. You win some amazing seeds. And number 74. And then we're going to do 2 extras in case you guys do not message Jason. We'll do 3. What the heck? This is only if we need backups. So number 13 would be backup number 1. Number 110 is backup number 2. And number 32 is backup number 3. So if you were one of those numbers that I've already forgotten, send an email to pumpkinjason@icloud.com, and we will arrange for those seeds to come to you so you can grow a 2,750-pound pumpkin off of Travis's own seed.
We're hoping for 48, 2,748.
48. Not 49. We don't want to tie it above. We need the 48. Just one less.
No, it's all good. It's going to get broke next year for sure. So just a matter of
when do you think that 3,000 pound marker is going to fall?
I really think it can fall next year. I mean, there's just no doubt in my mind. We're at the level where the average pumpkin's getting much, much, much bigger. And that's what we need. I think it'll fall. We've got too much technology wrapped up in this thing to not.
Right. Well, I look forward to seeing what you grow using some of that technology, the team you're going to build around you. I look forward to watching your videos, Travis, and hopefully having a beer or 7 with you at GPC Big Show at Lambeau. It'll be fun.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks again to Travis. And we will catch you next week with James from Impello Biologicals, I believe, is next week. So we're going to follow up with some of Travis's kind of thoughts, talk to a man of the biological world. And that's all we got. We'll talk to you next week. Goodbye, everybody. And I'm hitting the end button.